Regular meeting number 12 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem.
Let us pray together. O God and Father of us all, Columbus City Council meets tonight for the purpose of conducting the business of our city. The citizens of our community have chosen them and entrusted them with the awesome responsibility of legislating for the city, so the progress can be achieved and order preserved in our great city. Today's break of the weather reminds us that springtime is coming, and with it the rebirth of nature. We remember and pray those who suffer because of the cold, especially the homeless, the economically disadvantaged, not only up to this council, but to all the citizens of our city to help them in their need. We ask you to renew in the hearts of the members of this council great love and care for our fellow men and women, especially those who have no one to advocate for them or against the cause of the betterment. And finally, Lord, we ask you to show the members of our council all citizens of our city, we need to work together for the common good of all citizens of Columbus. So also
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Second. Clerk, call the roll.
Hardin Klein Mills, Page Paley, President Ginther.
Thank you. This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Are there any resolutions or announcements from members of council? Councilmember Hardin.
Thank you, President Ginther. My only announcement is that the Small and Minority Business Development Committee will be meeting this Wednesday, March 15th at 5 p.m. here in Council Chambers to discuss the reauthorization of the Discovery Special Improvement District and the authorization of the University Special Improvement District, and invite folks out if they'd like to hear those presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hardin. Councilmember Klein? Yes, President Pro Tem Mills? Councilmember Page? Councilmember Paley.
Thank you, President Ginther. I have one resolution and a presentation tonight. And tonight, my resolution is to honor Dr. Melvin Richardson. Dr. Richardson, would you please approach the podium? And please bring anyone that you might have brought with you tonight. My resolution is to recognize and celebrate the retirement of Dr. Melvin Richardson, JD, from the Department of Human Resources, Equal Employment Opportunity Manager on February 28, 2015, after 21 years of dedicated service to the City of Columbus. Whereas Dr. Richardson is a graduate of Columbus's very own East High School, after earning his Bachelor of Science degree from The Ohio State University, he then went to Georgetown University, where he earned his Juris Doctorate of Law degree. Having a career devoted to excellence, integrity, and service, Dr. Richardson was presented with 2 of the state of Ohio's top honors. In 1994, he was presented the Ohio Humanitarian Award by Governor George Voinovich for outstanding achievement in affirmative action, and in 2001, he was presented with the Ohio Equity and Awareness Award by Governor Bob Taft for his efforts to promote quality health care equally amongst Ohio's minority populations. Among many great accomplishments, Dr. Richardson has orchestrated and facilitated the annual City of Columbus Black History Month celebration from 1995 through 2015. Dr. Richardson has served as president of the Columbus Metropolitan Area Church Council, commissioner and chairman of the Near East Areas Commission's Human Resource Committee, as well as a mentor for African American youth and volunteer for Columbus founded I Know I Can. Dr. Richardson, would you like to make some comments?
I would. Thank you very much. I have a very brief statement I'd like to make, and that is that in 1979, excuse me, the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, otherwise known as to the world as Mother Teresa, is quoted as having said, quote, "We ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop," end quote. As to my 20-plus year tenure with the City of Columbus as Equal Employment Opportunity Manager, metaphorically, I am inclined to compare the experience to 2 quite imaginary lines that might be added to the children's nursery rhyme, Old MacDonald Had a Farm. Quote, "With a drop here and a drop there and a drop everywhere. I am so glad to now be retired," end quote. Thank you to Councilwoman Paley and to the other members of council, to the mayor, Mayor Coleman, to my other city co-workers, and to the citizen customers of the great city of Columbus. And thank you to Mother Teresa. Thank you all.
Councilmember Harden.
I just want to say thank you for your years of service to the city. We are that much better because of those years that you've given to us. Certainly, the work that you've done, and maybe it's the most visible piece, but those African American History Month celebrations have been fabulous and awesome, and thank you for your leadership.
Is there any other comments or from council? I move for passage.
Hardin Klein Mills, Page Peely, President Ginther.
Thank you. I would next like to invite Ms. Sharon Ware, the Assistant Impact Director at the United Way, and her members for the United Way Neighborhood Leadership Academy to step up to the podium. I do also see that Ms. Janet Jackson is in the room. If she would like to join her team, she can.
Thank you, Councilmember Paley, Council President Ginther, and members. We are delighted at United Way to show you our third-year group of Neighborhood Leadership Academy students. The Neighborhood Leadership Academy was designed to provide the opportunity for community leaders and aspiring leaders to have a better toolkit. I am delighted to say that Columbus, Ohio has developed a true sense of understanding of educating and wanting to be better, have better neighborhoods. And this is the result with wonderful sponsorship from Fifth Third Bank, from Donato's. These are corporate partners that have felt that truly we need to grow our neighborhoods. One other thing is that because this is our third year, the South Side is now launching their own Neighborhood Leadership Academy. And so we're delighted we can now reach more people. So at this time, I would like each of the members to stand up here and introduce themselves and the neighborhoods they represent. Thank you.
My name is Veronica Napper, and I represent the Franklinton community.
I'm Lisa Bennett. I live northwest Columbus. Our team is doing Milo Grogan.
I am Grace Hunter. I am a homeowner on the Near East Side, but I'm here representing the North area, Northland area.
I'm Alicia Ward, and I represent the Northland area.
I'm Jessica Garrett, and I live in German Village, and I'm also an advocate for individuals with disabilities and other barriers.
My name is Karen Rogers. I live on the Northeast Side, represent the Cumberland Ridge neighborhood.
My name is Wade Hungerford. I reside in Schumacher Place of 22 years and 15 years in Milo Grogan. Glad to have some new neighbors here in a year. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Joy Jackson, and I represent the Milo Grogan area.
Hi, I'm Jen Mankin, and I'm here representing Wineland Park.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Golden, and I live in Wyland Park, and I'm the secretary for Wyland Park.
I want to thank you, Sharon, and United Way for your leadership program. They also help us do our Neighborhood Best Practices Conference every year. And I know this sounds hokey, but Columbus is about us, and you do contribute to that, and it's all about our neighbors in the city of Columbus and collaborations and partnerships. We were talking about this before the meeting tonight. I think that I've seen every single one of your graduates, Sharon, out in the community, and it's heartwarming to see that. They become great advocates for their neighborhoods and for the city of Columbus. And if you ever need anything, all of our doors are open here at City Council for our neighborhood leaders, and we're proud of you and we're proud of what you do. I know that this is a very time-consuming project that Sharon put you all through, and I appreciate the time commitment that you have made to your neighborhoods. It's really important. Any other comments from council members? Thank you, Sharon, and thank you, neighborhood leaders. That's all I have this evening. President Ginther.
Thank you, Councilmember Paley. Any comments from our elected officials, City Auditor? This time, I request that the following ordinances be removed from the consent action portion of the agenda. In the Health and Human Services Committee, Ordinance 0521-2015. In the Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinance 0552-2015. And in the Public Utilities Committee, Ordinance 0456-2015. Any other requests from members of council for the removal of a agenda item for the consent action portion of the agenda? If not, may we have a motion to waive reading of the titles of 30-day legislation by the city clerk? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Hardin Klein Mills, Page Paley, President Ginther.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Tonight in first reading in Health and Human Services, we have Ordinance 0581-2015, Small Minority Business Development 0060X, 0061X-2015. In Public Utilities, 212-2015, 348-2015, 0437-2015, 508-2015. In environment, we have 546-2015.
Thank you. The following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read the ordinance numbers of each into the record?
Tonight, in resolutions of expression, we have 65X-2015, 69X, 70X-2015. In finance, we have 526, 551-2015. In health and human services, we have 532, 544, 580-2015. In public service, 57X-2015, 549, 567-2015. In technology, 298, 438, 442, 483-2015. In public utilities, 454, 476, 480, 531, 533, and 591-2015. In development, 493, 554, 586, 587, 588, 596, 597, 598, 599, 600, and 601-2015. In environment, 534-2015. Recreation and parks, 447, 553, 571-2015. Judiciary and court administration, we have 570, 574, 628-2015. Appointments from the mayor's office numbered 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46-2015.
Thank you. We do have one speaker on the consent agenda this evening, Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins, welcome to council chambers. If you'd make your way to the podium. Share your name, address, any organizations you represent. It appears you've signed up to speak in support of 0599-2015.
Lieutenant George Wilkins, the chairman of solely vacant abandonment property in North Linden area. I'm speaking on 0599-2015. I just want to know what this property is going to be used for. 1063, 1065 South James Road. I'd just like to have more clarification on that, what this property be used for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. Any questions or comments for Mr. Wilkins? Director Shoney, any additional information you have at this point on 1063 through 1065 South James Road?
President Ginther, members of council, my understanding is that that property or those properties will be used for rental development.
Thank you. Any other questions for the director? Any comments or questions regarding the consent agenda? If not, I have a motion for approval of these items designated as consent actions. Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll by voice.
Harden. Klein. Mills. Page.
Yes.
Paley. President Ginther.
Yes, consent agenda carries. We will now proceed with the second reading of 30-day table and the emergency legislation. The first committee is the Finance Committee. President Pro Tem Mills will be bringing forth legislation for our consideration this evening from Finance. President Pro Tem Mills.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in the Finance Committee, I have Ordinance 496-2015 to authorize the Department of Finance and Management to contract with Experience Columbus for marketing services to increase tourism and convention business and strengthen the image of the City of Columbus, Ohio, to authorize expenditure of 2.39%, presently estimated at $8,583,000 of the combined rates of 5.1% of the hotel motel excise tax, and to declare an emergency. I'd like to ask Linda Logan, there she is, that was quick. Sorry. Linda Logan to please come to the podium. Linda Logan is Executive Director of the Greater Columbus Sports Commission, who's had a fantastic year. In 2015, the portion that is projected to be $8.5 million provided to Experience Columbus, through Experience Columbus per this ordinance. Just a side note that tourism supports 1 out of 11 of every 11 jobs in Franklin County. Linda, please share with us this fantastic year that you're having on behalf of the City of Columbus.
Well, thank you all, President Ginther, and all of our the City Council members, Auditor Dorian. I know that we're thrilled to represent Destination Columbus at Experience Columbus and the Greater Columbus Sports Commission. Brian Ross sends his best regards. He's getting ready for his annual meeting tomorrow. So we are very thrilled with the great start that we've already had in 2015 with the kickoff of the NHL All-Star Game and many, many more. We're in the midst of our favorite month of March Madness that includes high school championships, Big Ten championships, NCAA championships across the board, along with many conventions and meetings around this quarter. I know bed taxes are up, which we all like to see. That includes occupancy as well as the average rates. As we look ahead to this year, there's just so many great things to report. We couldn't do it without you. You all are our partners. You help us raise our profile. The image of the community continues to grow. The quality of life for the people that live and reside in Columbus is extremely exciting to watch, all the great things that have been happening. Our infrastructure is growing, just on and on. So I know that on behalf of Experience Columbus's board and the Sports Commission, we are proud partners and are just thrilled to be here. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. And, you know, the revenue that is very vital to the city and the county is critical through our tourism, but also the opportunities and as it relates to leadership and modeling for young girls and all of the young people through sports, I think is extremely important, and their opportunity to see those who have gone ahead and paved the way for them and setting the tone. And I know during the morning sports report, it gives us an opportunity to highlight some of our stars in our very own community as they achieve, and we want to continue to move the needle as it relates to achievement and leadership opportunities for girls, women, and all of our youth. And I want to say that these opportunities that come to the city not only bringing the revenue, but brings opportunities and possibility for the minds of our young people. So I just wanted to highlight that side of the tourism that we often may take for granted, but the legacy projects that come through some of the work that we do with some of the sports opportunities. Are there any other comments or questions from other council members? Hearing none, I'd like to move for passage.
Second. Thank you.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Thank you, Linda. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
Next in finance, I have ordinance 0547-2015 to authorize and direct the city auditor to enter into a contractual agreement with AKA Enterprise Solutions, Inc. for maintenance and support services necessary for the accounting, purchasing, budgeting, asset management, and vendor services systems to waive competitive bidding provisions of Chapter 329 of Columbus City Codes, to authorize the expenditure of $85,000 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Next, I have ordinance 0561-2015 to authorize the director of the Department of Finance and Management to expend $1,104,000 or so much thereof that may be necessary for the payment of rent for 4 lease agreements for office and warehouse space used by the Department of Public Safety and 1 MOU with the Department of Public Utilities, and to declare an emergency. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
I'd like to move to Health and Human Services, which I'll also be presenting this evening. Tonight in Health and Human Services, I have ordinance 0548-2015 to authorize and direct the Board of Health to accept a grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $3,494,730 to authorize the appropriation of $3,494,730 from the unappropriated balance of the Health Department Grants Fund and to declare an emergency. If there are no comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
There's one other ordinance I'd like to present in this committee. If I could ask to go back to page 4. Ordinance 0521-2015, to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into contract with the Community Shelter Board for the purpose of continuing the outreach program, which includes assertive outreach at homeless encampments, proactive engagement, referral to medical and behavioral health care, and linkage to shelter and housing, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $117,000 from the Neighborhood Initiatives Fund and to declare an emergency. Along with Councilmember Tyson, the other co-sponsor is Councilmember Zach Klein. Councilmember Klein, would you like to add some comments?
Thank you, Chair Mills. I appreciate that. When I first learned about the gap in funding to support this outreach program, I immediately reached out to Michelle Heritage at the Community Shelter Board to figure out exactly what these outreach people do, because I think it would, to me, was an important aspect of what the Shelter Board is doing. And to find out that these folks are literally going out on the streets, they're finding folks that are homeless, they're bringing them into shelter. Don't need to tell anyone who's watching TV or watching this right now how cold our winter was. It was brutal, and to think to live outside in a homeless shelter, it was a smart investment for the city to make, to have folks proactively go out, bring folks in the shelter, and then link them up with services, vital services that are necessary for behavioral health care. And I know Michelle is here. Michelle Heritage, would you please, if it's okay, Chair, please come forward, Ms. Heritage, and offer some thoughts on what this program can do.
Hi, thanks for having me. Michelle Heritage with Community Shelter Board. I just want to talk a little bit about the outreach program. This program's been around since about 2003. Mary Haven's our provider on it, and they've been doing street outreach services. It is to engage folks that are staying on the land, they're living outdoors, and trying to get them into shelter or into housing. And we want to do that as quickly as possible. They serve a little bit more than 360 people per year, and it's an extremely valuable program. One of the things it does is address safety. This winter has, as we all know, have been particularly unrelenting and extremely dangerous for people to stay outside. And so the outreach teams are on the street and in the camps, really working hard to engage people and get them to come inside. And then some folks just really don't want to enter shelter, and so the outreach team's job is to take them directly to housing, and they have a very high rate of getting folks connected to either shelter or housing. 90% of the folks they're serving, they're able to get them to enter shelter or directly into housing, so very effective there. The outreach team also makes sure that we have safe neighborhoods. You know, in our community, when you look at it, it really is different than when you go to maybe some other communities around the country and you see massive street homelessness all over the place and people in very dire straits. Our program makes sure that we don't see that kind of street homelessness and gets people inside. I'm incredibly grateful for your support. Councilmember Klein, thanks so much for your leadership on this. And Councilmember Tyson is not here, but also is co-sponsoring that. It's really important, and we are just incredibly grateful for your leadership and that we can go ahead and make sure this program continues.
Thank you, Michelle, Ms. Heritage. Any questions or comments for the Community Shelter Board Director? No? Thank you. Just like to close by saying, reiterating what Ms. Heritage was saying is that when you look at budget priorities, I think this is a testament to council to make an expenditure like this, to ensure that folks are off the street, to make our neighborhoods safer. I think it identifies the compassion that this council has for folks that are the least fortunate. And you don't steal a lot of headlines and get a lot of glamour out of this, but I think it's just, it's one of those things, it's the right thing to do from a humanitarian standpoint. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Klein. I wanted to add, as it relates to this ordinance, that there are also funding requests so that the shared responsibility is with the United Way of Central Ohio as well as Franklin County Board of Commissioners. There's also ASCA there. That we have such a generous community. We have several entities along with the city that care enough to embrace the needs that are related to the homeless population. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley. President Ginther.
President Ginther, I'd like to move to the Committee of Development if you would give me the opportunity. Thank you. Tonight in development have the following ordinance 0602-2015 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to execute any and all necessary agreements and deeds for conveyance of title of 23 parcels located at the southeast corner of Mount Vernon and Champion Avenues to Columbus Holding Group LLC and to declare an emergency. The property contains an 8,000 square foot vacant property store building, and this legislation authorizes the Director of Development to transfer the property to the Columbus Holding Group. The site is identified in a blueprint for community investment, which is a plan for the area developed by PACT, which recommends the redevelopment of the site, and it is adjacent to the Poindexter site. Director Shoney, do you have any comments to add related to this ordinance?
President Pro Tem Mills, President Ginther, members of council, a couple of comments. This project is, as you said, part of our efforts to revitalize the Poindexter area. This is the old Carl Brown Grocery, typically known as the Carl Brown site. We are partnering with Columbus Next Generation Corporation to have it redeveloped. We're also working very closely with our partners at Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority to really make sure that this is a seamless redevelopment along with the rest of the Poindexter redevelopment. We don't have specific plans yet for what this redevelopment will be. We are looking to have a combination likely of retail and office, sort of medical office kind of retail. That's what we think the community will need in that location when it's redeveloped. But really, we're working with NextGen to make sure we find what the best development for that area is. So we're looking forward to working on that. And thank you, President Pro Tem Mills, for your work and leadership on this and working with us through this process.
Thank you, Director Shoney. If there are no other additional comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Next, I have ordinance 0621-2015 to amend the 2014 capital improvements budget to authorize a transfer of cash and appropriation within the Northland and other acquisitions fund, to authorize the Director of Development to enter into professional services contracts with various artists for conceptual design fees related to the design proposals for the Harrison Park Public Art Project, to authorize the expenditure of $2,250 from the Northland and other acquisition fund, and to declare an emergency. I believe Matthew Williams, Harrison West Society, from the Harrison West Society, is here with us this evening. Mr. Williams, if you'll please approach the podium.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly. I just wanted to give you a brief history of the art in Harrison West, which is the neighborhood I'm representing. In 2001, we developed a tradition, or started a tradition, of adding public art to our parks with Side by Side Park. And we were fortunate enough in 2009 to develop a new park in the neighborhood called Harrison Park. And there are currently 4 sculptures that have been added to that park through a competition that we ran with CCAD students. The neighborhood voted and selected 4 from approximately 20 proposals and had those fabricated and installed in the park. When that park was originally designed, we were planning to put in 5 pieces, and the proposal that you're talking about tonight will be for funding that 5th piece, which we are excited to say will be by a nationally recognized prominent artist. And we're really looking forward to it, and the neighborhood has had several opportunities to vote and express their support for it, and they're very, very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't leave yet. Come back, Mr. Williams. Very excited about the community engagement with this and the leadership of Harrison West as we move forward when it comes to public art, and having such a great history with public art. We're really grateful for the participation from the community folks in the Harrison West Society. So please send my thanks to them.
Thank you.
If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Next, I have ordinance 0643-2015 to expand the Wyland Park Community Reinvestment Area to authorize real property tax exemptions as established in the Ohio Revised Code and to declare an emergency. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
I'd like to move to the Environment Committee if I could. Tonight in Environment, I have the following ordinance 0572-2015 to authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to submit grant applications to the Ohio Public Works Commission, District 3 Natural Resource Advisory Committee for Clean Ohio Conservation Fund, Round 9 grants for the natural area protection and stream restoration projects, and to declare an emergency. These projects will acquire over 90 acres along Big Walnut Creek. This is where mature forest and stream corridor habitat, providing for over 2 miles of protected waterway corridor. The Dry Run Stream Restoration Project will restore a natural channel to over 1,650 feet of heavily impacted stream near Westmore Park, Westmore Elementary School, and Hague Avenue. The grants require a 25% local match. Just one note, Big Walnut Creek is one of Central Ohio's most highly quality waterways. The southern segment of the river near its confluence with the Scioto River is listed as exceptional water quality, and protecting the floodplain and wooded corridor is a significant ecological benefit for our great city. If there are no other comments or questions, I'd like to move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Thank you. That's all I have this evening. I have one announcement. I just wanted to make the community aware of our community and council meeting tomorrow evening at Barnett Recreation Center.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Mills. Our next committee is the Public Safety Committee. Councilmember Klein chairs that committee. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Ginther. First in Public Safety is 370-2015 to authorize and direct the Director of Finance and Management to execute those documents necessary to enter into contracts for the acquisition of the Andros line of hazardous duty robotic system equipment for the Division of Fire, the Bomb Squad, in accordance with sole source procurement with Northrop Grumman, Remote Tech, Inc., utilizing state Homeland Security grant funds, and to declare an emergency. I had the fortune of basically picking up 2 bombs earlier today, fake bombs for everyone that's watching, and operating the robot. It's a pretty amazing piece of equipment, and it's actually 20 years old. This will, this grant by the Department of Homeland Security and the state allows us to upgrade and purchase a new robot that will be used to save the lives of the citizens of the city of Columbus, as well as the men and women of the Columbus Fire Department and the Columbus Police Department. Any questions or comments? Director Gene Gardella, anything you want to add?
President Ginther, Chairman Klein, members of council, again, as you said, this will replace a current piece of equipment. It's roughly 20 years old. This one will have improved sensors, audio-visual capabilities, and just want to also thank Franklin County Homeland Security, who also supported our application for this. Our $222,000 grant, and it doesn't cost us anything. The only real requirement is that we use it as a regional asset, which of course we do with all of our Homeland Security grant equipment, and it helps us on several dozen incidents a year. So I thank Council very much for entertaining this ordinance this evening.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
And then the next 2 ordinances involve the annual industry competitive increase for police and fire. The first is 564-2015 to amend ordinance number 2715-2013 as amended, the police management compensation plan by amending section 3A and to declare an emergency. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
565-2015 to amend ordinance number 2714-2013 as amended, the fire management compensation plan by amending section 3A and declaring an emergency. Any questions or comments? I move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Moving on to public utilities. 369-2015 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase the professional engineering services agreement with Burgess & Nyepel for the Hapkerming Water Plant Treatment Improvements Project for the Division of Water to authorize a transfer and expenditure of up to $1,510,000 from the Water Permanent Improvements Fund and to amend the 2014 capital improvements budget. Deputy Director O'Grady, would you or someone from the Department of Utility like to discuss this?
President Ginther, Chairman Klein, if I could have Administrator Westerfield come.
Sure. Mr. Westerfield, if you could come to the podium. Mr. Westerfield, our Water Administrator, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther, Chairman Klein, and members of City Council. This particular ordinance, 0369-2015, is for an amendment to the Burgess & Nyepel engineering agreement. Burgess & Nyepel is the engineer of record for the Hapkerming Water Treatment Plant project. This unanticipated modification number 3 is for additional engineering services during construction, and these additional engineering services are due to unanticipated conditions during construction, including an extended construction schedule resulting from approved change orders with the contractor, higher than expected level of effort for shop drawing review work. Shop drawings are drawings that the contractor submits for telling us how he's going to build the project. Unforeseen field conditions, higher than expected level of effort for shop drawing review, and startup and commissioning of a new ozone system, and higher than expected level of effort for startup and commissioning of the ozone system, including the addition of an arc flash study for improved electrical safety for the city's employees. These changes have impacted aspects of the project and have required additional oversight of sub-consultants, additional interaction with the construction management team, programming the equipment, city staff, etc. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have with this ordinance, and we thank you for your consideration.
It's my understanding that a significant piece of this financial upgrade was due to the ozone equipment that you mentioned.
Yes.
And that a different type of ozone machinery was used, which required the specs to be drawn differently, which then increased the amount of time it would take to redo the specs. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Administrator Westerfield? Councilmember Mills?
Can you share a little bit about the, just refresh the uniqueness of the project regarding some of the pieces that, it's hard to kind of anticipate some of this, but some of the uniqueness of the project?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Councilmember Mills, President Ginther, Councilmember Klein, and members of City Council. Yes, this project involves the upgrade of an existing treatment plant. And when you get into existing treatment plants, there's a lot of things underground that you may not be aware of. There are things underwater that you may not be aware of the condition of. This particular project involves facilities to meet EPA regulations. And some of those facilities, as Councilmember Klein mentioned, include an ozone generator, something that provides additional treatment at the water plant, a very large piece of equipment in a very large building. And so all of these unique things that occur during construction, particularly at an existing water plant, lead to these types of things, and these are not uncommon of any type of construction project, particularly at an existing treatment plant. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? I move for passage.
Hardin, Klein, Mills, Page, Bailey, President Ginther.
429-2015 authorize the Utilities to plan modification of high-voltage supply services in connection with the Deep Well Hybrid Copper program for the And I'd like to call a voice vote.
Harden. Klein.
Yes.
Mills. Page.
Yes.
Paley. President Ginther.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Klein. We took a piece, Chairman Harden, who chairs the Public Service Transportation Committee, took a piece of legislation off the consent agenda, and I'd like him to bring it forward for consideration and discussion.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in public service, I'd like to go back to page 5 to Ordinance 0552, 2015. And it's to authorize the city auditor to appropriate funds in the amount of $466,563.48 within the Local Transportation Improvement Fund, and to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with G&G Cement Contractors and to provide the payment, construction, administration, and inspection services in connection with the pedestrian safety improvements, Rich Street Sidewalk, PID, project, and to authorize the expenditure of $466,000, $563.48 from the Federal State Highway Engineering Fund and to declare an emergency. And this ordinance authorizes spending from the Local Transportation Improvement Fund for pedestrian safety improvements by building sidewalks on both sides of Rich Street between Central Avenue and Yale Avenue. This is about 10 blocks of sidewalks in Columbus's Franklinton neighborhood with ADA compatibility. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
And that's all we have in public service this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Harden. Our next committee is the Recreation and Parks Committee. Councilmember Page chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ginther. Tonight in Recreation and Parks, we have Ordinance 563-2015 to authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to enter into a contract with the United Way of Central Ohio for the implementation of the Columbus Kids Ready, Set, Learn initiative, to authorize the expenditure of $50,000 from the Community Development Block Grant Fund, and to declare an emergency. I would like to ask Mr. Eric Brandon of Recreation Parks if he has any additional comments.
Chair Page, no, we do not. I think you have a representative from United Way to talk about the impact of the program.
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask the President and CEO, Ms. Janet Jackson of United Way of Central Ohio, to come and offer some comments on this legislation and the program. Thank you.
Good evening, President Ginther, Councilmember Page, and the other honorable members of City Council. I'm thrilled to be with you this evening. I am Janet Jackson, President and CEO of your United Way, the United Way of Central Ohio. I'm here to say thank you for your past and current support of Columbus Kids Ready, Set, Learn. We are grateful to have Columbus City Council and the City of Columbus as a strong partner in this work. Columbus Kids, a United Way initiative, is focused on ensuring that children have the skills they need to succeed when they enter kindergarten in Columbus City schools. The initiative provides periodic learning checkups that identify developmental delays, behavior issues, and communication challenges for children ages 2.5 through 4. When issues are found with our young children, the children are connected with the help they need to address those issues before they get to kindergarten. Since it was launched in February of 2010, Columbus Kids has enrolled nearly 17,000 children and completed more than 26,000 learning checkups. It is eye-opening to realize that many of the children we are working with are living in deep poverty. Over 50% of the children participating in Columbus Kids live in families that make less than $10,000 per year, and 40% of these families make less than $5,000 per year. Your investment in Columbus Kids is producing positive results. As of February, our data showed that 59% of children who scored in the referral range on a learning checkup had improved their score by the following assessment, 59%. With the help of another nonprofit, Learning Circle Educational Services, we were able to match Columbus Kids and Columbus City school data regarding performance on the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment for Literacy through the 2013-14 school year. This allowed us to see that Columbus Kids participants performed better on the assessment when compared to all children entering kindergarten in the district. As an example, the percent of children in Band 1, those needing help to bring them up to grade level, was 3% lower for children in Columbus Kids than those in Columbus City Schools overall. I believe that there was a document shared with each of you. It's the most sort of recent update for us at Columbus Kids. And I want to give credit where credit is due. We don't do this alone. We do this with over 300 partners throughout this community. It really is a very collaborative effort. So again, on behalf of United Way, I want to thank you for your support of this ordinance, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, President Jackson, for your
Welcome.
comments and for the work that you're doing to help our most disadvantaged children. Does anyone have any other comments or questions? Thank you, President Jackson.
Thank you for having me.
If there are no questions, I would first like to amend Ordinance 563-2015 to 30-day legislation and request a voice vote.
Second.
Harden. Klein. Mills. Page.
Yes.
Paley.
Yes.
President Ginther.
Thank you, President Ginther. I would now like to move for passage and request a voice vote.
Second.
Harden. Klein. Mills. Page.
Yes.
Paley. President Ginther.
Thank you, President Ginther. That's all we have in Recreation and Parks this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Page. Our final committee this evening is the Administration Committee. Councilmember Paley chairs that committee. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Ginther. And the Administration Committee this evening, we have ordinance number 0560-2015 to amend the Management Compensation Plan, ordinance number 2713-2013, as amended by amending sections 4B and C, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Harden. Klein. Mills. Page. Paley. President Ginther.
That's all I have in the Administration Committee.
Thank you, Councilmember Paley. Anything else to come before council this evening? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Harden. Klein. Mills. Page. Paley. President Ginther.
We stand adjourned. We do have one non-agenda speaker, and we will reconvene for zoning at 6:30. Regular meeting number 13 will now come to order. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Harden. Klein. Mills. Page. Paley. President Ginther.
Thank you. Are there any communications and reports received by the city clerk?
No, there are not.
Any first readings of 30-day legislation?
No, there are none.
We will now go to the zoning committee. I chair the committee. All members serve on the committee. This evening in zoning, we have 0529-2015 to rezone 7860 Smoky Row Road, 43065, being a 3.3 plus or minus acres located on the east side of Smoky Row Road, 540 plus or minus feet north of Hard Road, from CPD, Commercial Plan Development, and SR, Suburban Residential Districts, to C2, Commercial District. The applicant is the Ellis Company, care of Jeffrey L. Brown, attorney, Smith & Hale, 37 West Broad Street, Suite 460, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. Proposed use is commercial development. The Development Commission recommended approval. City Department's recommendation is approval. Is there any discussion or comments, questions from council members? If not, first I'd move to amend to emergency. Second. Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Amended to emergency, and second, move for passage. Second. Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Passed. Next is 0530-2015 to grant a variance from the provisions of Section 3353.03 C2 permitted uses of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 7860 Smoky Row Road, 43065, to permit a self-storage facility in the C2 Commercial District and to repeal ordinance number 1047-91, passed May 3rd, 1991. The applicant is the Ellis Company, care of Jeffrey L. Brown, attorney, Smith & Hale, LLC, 37 West Broad Street, Suite 460, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. Proposed use is commercial development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. First, I'd like to amend as submitted to the clerk. Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Amended is submitted to the clerk. Now I'd like to move to amend to emergency.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
Yes.
I'm Jeffrey L. Brown, applicant or attorney for the applicant. I was just talking with Shannon Pine. There needs to be one additional amendment we just noticed. When you read the title, it talked about repealing the previous ordinance, council variance, and just glancing at that, I don't see that section in there, so we would need to add that, and I do apologize for not noticing that beforehand.
So in the ordinance, the fact that the repealing the commercial district in ordinance number 104791 isn't in the legislation?
No, it only appears in the title. It doesn't appear as one of the sections.
Okay.
Council President, do we need to move to reconsider the amendment so that the amendment fully reflects the proposed language that Mr. Brown is talking about?
Yes. Move to reconsider?
Yes, move to reconsider.
Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
We are reconsidering the amendment. Councilmember Klein, would you like to move to amend to include the language shared by Mr. Brown?
Yes, Council President Ginther. Mr. Brown referenced an ordinance passed 1047-91. I move to amend to include that ordinance as well as any other submissions that are submitted to the clerk.
To the repeal of that ordinance.
Yes.
Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Amended as submitted to the clerk, and
We'll
Mr. Brown will work with Ms. Pine to make sure that that language is included tonight before you all leave. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Next, would like to amend to emergency. Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Amended to emergency, and finally move for passage. Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
Legislation is passed. Is there anything else to come before the zoning committee this evening? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Clerk, call the roll.
Harden, Klein, Mills, Page, Paley, President Ginther.
We stand adjourned.